Hello, my name is Rugare Gomo, and I'm a high performance coach. Welcome to your business summit, where we have experts ready to help you navigate your life and business during these unprecedented times. And today it's my privilege to introduce you to David Firgaira, the founder of CDSE and one of my true close friends. Thank you, David, for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So David is a civil engineer and he created CDSE Consulting in 2017. And so the business is about, 2.5 years old?
Yep.
Close to 3 years old. And what CDSE is all about is making cities work. And I just love that as a civil engineer, it's just so clear what you are about. So it would be great to hear from you about what you love about CDSE and what you do.
Yeah, of course. I think for me, it's even the civil engineering is almost a side thing, even though that really is our business. For me, I get the most enjoyment really from building a team. I'm very proud of the staff that we have and the team that we've put together. I think they all operate with a high level of integrity. They all operate within the vision and values of the company, and they really represent very well, I think, what the culture, I guess, that I was looking to create with this business. And it's almost like every new person who's joined CDSE has really just added another set of capabilities that on our own we wouldn't have been able to, or on my own I wouldn't have been able to put forward and put out there in the marketplace. And outside of that, I'm also really proud of our there's a lot of community ventures and things that we're also involved in. We support two girls through the Gomo Foundation, and we also have some artists that we're working with. And so there's a lot of fun things we get to dabble in. And one of our values is called infinite possibilities. And it's always one of my favorite conversations to be having with our team, and to reminding our team that, we're not about just trying to package and fit within a box, where what we can do is actually infinite. And we're not even just limited to being a civil engineering company and only doing civil engineering services. So it's a very exciting and fun place to work. It really is.
Absolutely. And you really do breathe life into a whole industry that sometimes is misconstrued in essence. And I just really hear that what you're about is really making a difference, whether it's through engineering, through making a difference to girls' lives in Zimbabwe, supporting artists or allowing artists to thrive. It's very holistic. And I just want to thank you for, being a business owner that has created a space to do that, first and foremost. Now, today's topic is about contingency planning. We are in a whole new world order, and it's not business as usual. And you run a team of about 14 people, and of course you've got other contractors and clients that you provide a service to. So I'd like to just hear from you as a contribution to the community, like how you've dealt with the new world order and particularly creating a contingency plan to deal with this.
Yes. Look, I'd say in many respects, I feel very, very lucky with the kind of business and the industry that we're in, that, a lot of our, the projects, in fact, all the projects that we are working on have continued despite all the changes that have come up in this age of, the coronavirus. So in some respects, there was a little bit that was already in place for us, not by design, but more by luck. And then there's also definitely needed to be a response, which has been through some planning and some quick responses. Nothing that we had time to stop and sit on the fence on, but we really needed to get things in order very quickly to ensure our people were across it, and to ensure we were properly set up with all the systems and processes to deal with, as you put it, this new world order that we're in at the moment. So, sorry, what was the second part of your question?
What is a contingency plan?
Sure. So a contingency plan really is a plan to deal with something that comes up that's really outside of normal business. When you hit a point in your business where, it's not business as usual. It could be that you're running out of work, or a job has just ceased and you're needing to do something. You need to respond very quickly to that, and it could be something that if not dealt with, could really take out your business and massively impact your ability to operate as a business. So I'd say it's also about coming up with a plan to respond with velocity as a reaction probably to something outside of the business that's happened, and being ready to, and knowing, being able to lead your team through that with confidence and with certainty and with assurance that it's in hand.
Fantastic. Now, I would like us to explore the process and the steps you took to actually create a contingency plan. It's so easy for us to all know the concept of it, but it's always like, how do we do that? Like, that's the burning question. So, I'd like to just hear from you, like, how did you actually create a contingency plan?
Yep. So I'd say, first and foremost, we're very lucky in our business that, well, not lucky, this was certainly by design, that we have a high performance coach, being yourself, Rugare. So Rugare does, he coaches me personally, and in high performance, but he also coaches all of my management team, and that includes sitting in on our management meetings that we have. So, I do have a management team that, and we all worked together and collaborated actually on our contingency plan. And I think that was also something that really helped to bring great velocity to it. I was actually reflecting on this just today, leading up to this conversation. And one thing I know I can get stuck in is being stuck in my own headspace. I have my own ideas about what I need to do. I have my checklists of what I need to get through each day. But until you actually need to share that, until you write it down and you really bring it into existence, aside from it just living in your brain, it's not really, there isn't performance in that. It really lacks existence yet. It's a concept, it's an idea, but it hasn't yet been created in any meaningful way. So I think that what Rugare took us through as to create our contingency plan was for myself and my management team to all sit together and write down what we thought were the critical steps we needed to take in response to this time. And so, and that was all done, I think, in only a very short time of maybe 5 or 10 minutes. And then we all shared and wrote on a whiteboard, what we'd each come up with. And in many cases there was a lot of overlap, but the great thing, and I think the thing that exercise also showed, is there are gaps that I had that other people in my team were able to fill, and vice versa. So there's something about doing it collaboratively with your team that I think also brings a lot more power to it, because within my team we have various expertise, we have various experience. My other two managers who I have both have their MBAs, I don't. So they bring another level and another way of thinking to the table. And so I think that there's something about doing it collaboratively. There's something about being put on the spot to have to come up with that, in the way that we did, was also very. It puts a bit of pressure on it, but at the same time, I'll say the other thing that I really like about it is not feeling like you have to get it perfect. Just being free to be able to really share and know that together we're going to come up with something. And so that was probably the first real step in creating our contingency plan. And then it was actually reviewing what was there and really putting what's the priority on each of those things, and how important are they, and how quickly as well can they be put in place. So that enabled us then to really then start properly planning, what we were going to do as a response.
Very powerful. So the first step was really brainstorming, not at an individual level, but as a team. Like, the collaboration was very important in that regard. And allowing the free flow of creativity to show up. And then the second part was then the organization of those ideas as well.
Yes.
And then can you then talk to me through some of the issues, like on the court issues, that you had to plan for inside of your company?
Sure. Look, one of the big ones there was obviously having our team working from home. So one of our big focuses was on actually looking after our team, knowing that it's a highly stressful period of change for people. And in most cases, people generally don't respond very well to change, especially big wholesale changes from workplace. So for us, putting in place a working from home policy, as well as creating everything around that. It's not just a policy that is published, but there are obligations and responsibilities that you create in the creation of the policy we also needed to fulfill on. So there was a whole process attached to that working from home policy. Part of it was, oh gosh, I'm trying to think now. A big part was also being in communication with our clients and with the marketplace. Hearing what was going to best service their needs and ensuring that there was that certainty of work still in hand, and just understanding how these changes were going to have an impact on us as a business and the way we operate. And you have to maybe help me out here, Rugare. I'm trying to think what was some of the other big ticket items that we put within our contingency plan.
I think we also looked at the finances of the entire company, and also looked at how long we would be able to survive for. Correct. And by when.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And that I think was a really good exercise to go through as well, because it has been really hard in some cases seeing how other businesses have responded and realize and how quickly they've needed to start letting go of people as a response to COVID-19. So for us, there was we didn't really know before we came up with our contingency plan and reviewed it what actually is the amount of time we can withstand this without letting go of people, and what might be the points where we have to draw a line in the sand and start making the really tough decisions. So yeah, it really helped to be able to look at it from that perspective and do a proper review and analysis of where we sit from a cash flow perspective, and in order to ensure as well that we can. I think there was two sides to that. One is as business managers, just knowing where we stand, but also being able to communicate back to our staff where they stand as well, and being very transparent with our communication with them, so they know. Because that was also another bit of feedback that came back to us, luckily post kind of us formulating the contingency plan, but a lot of our staff had concerns around, what does that mean for us for the business, and what does that mean for our employment? So because we'd already done the work as part of that contingency planning, we were already able to give them the answers and the assurances of what it truly meant for us as a business and for them in their employment.
I think, one of the things that inspired me a lot through that exercise was the level of planning on how to communicate with the team, and not to pretend that the New World Order wasn't happening, but really being authentic about what could happen, as well as the things that as a company we're putting in place in that regard. Yeah. And, that's one of the things you and the management team did so well.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, one of those was just for myself to send an email out to the entire team, just to really spell out to them, this is the state of play. This is what it means for you. Just in many respects to bring some certainty to everyone and some assurance to everyone. But we didn't actually have all the answers either. It wasn't this absolute everything's completely fine. It was this is what we're working on. So part of it was even just to say, we've created a contingency plan and this is what we're working through. So also I think to a point, not feeling like we had to have all the answers and not feeling like we had to have certainty of work for the next 2 years. It was enough just to say, for us, it was really saying there was, at the time when we came up with the contingency plan, there was 2 months guaranteed that we could keep our staff on. And then with government announcements and some of the assistance that provided, that added another month again onto, how long we could continue to sustain our staff, even if every project we were working on was to come to a stop right there and then. So, I don't know that every business is in that same position from a cash flow perspective, but certainly it was very helpful for us to be able to provide that certainty. But, but also not feel like we had to have the answers to everything, just that we were conscious of the position and we're working on it, And even another element to that was bringing an ownership to the rest of the team. We weren't trying to just protect them and shelter them from what we were dealing with and what it's been like for us as a company, but it's bringing them in on those conversations. So we've actually been running business development meetings with the entire team to talk about, given the environment that we're in, given some of the delays that we're finding that are happening within our industry, what can they bring to the table, and who can they, and training them up in how to have those kinds of conversations with their network, in the hope that that might help us also be getting through this time. And the response to that's also been incredible. We've had 100% attendance from all of our staff. They've really all engaged really well in that. And of course, these are meetings like this over Zoom, and there's also been a level of learning how to run these types of meetings in a way that's efficient and effective. And I give full props to my team for taking everything on board and really coming to the table. It's been incredible.
It's very powerful.
And sorry, go.
I've completely interrupted you. I was so hooked in what you said. I was right there with you, David.
Go for it.
What I was going to say is that, I know you give the props to the team, which is very, you do have an extraordinary team, but that's also inside of the work as a leader that you have done to create a team like that. All, leadership is a reflection of the person who's leading it. So if your team is doing well, that's a reflection of how the leader of the organization has also led. So I just want to also acknowledge you as well for that leadership that you have provided in that regard.
Yeah, thank you. The other thing I was going to add that came out of our contingency planning, there were also some decisions that would almost be surprising as a response to what's happening. One of those things was we have our IT manager who's been working for us part-time 1 day a week, and as part of analysing what's our response, it was actually to change him from being part-time to being full-time, providing full-time employment to him, because we could see that the opportunity, on one hand, there were the need within our business to have an even better and more robust IT system. But the other side, seeing that there's a real opportunity now with what he brings to the marketplace, that it make perfect sense just to also increase his hours and bring him in full time to start work on that part of the business. So, with that particular employee, we've talked a lot about what his dreams are and what his goals and aspirations are, and it's always been to run his own IT consultancy, and so we're now starting to create that for him within CDSE, and so it hasn't just been about how do we mitigate and limit the damage that might be done by this, but also looking at what are the opportunities in this. Where can we find new work and new business, and what opportunities may be able to come out of this time, as opposed to just being limited by how do we spend less and how do we really limit what we're doing, but also thinking big, thinking opportunistically about the situation we found ourselves in.
Very powerful. Inside of the New World Order, it's very normal for us as human beings to feel very fearful, uncertain, scared. That's a human condition. That's very, very normal. When there is change, our brain likes to keep us comfortable and safe. That's what it's designed to do.
Yes.
And what I'm hearing is that you made a decision outside the world of fear. So many of us right now in the New World Order are making decisions inside of the world of fear, uncertainty, which are then not good decisions. So I would like to know how you and your company make these kinds of decisions with velocity, because it sounds like that you are not coming from the world of fear. No. How has that happened?
Well, I think a big part of it was by going through the contingency planning and analysing, what we needed to do. That really gave us a real a grasp on the situation. I'd say, the reason most people would respond from a place of fear is because they just don't know. They're not sure of where they sit. They're not sure of the impact that it's going to have. So I think by going through that planning process, we understood where we sat, and we understood really what where the opportunities could be for us. So I think a big part of that is just, I guess, dispelling some of the fear through the facts and through dealing with, okay, how do we really sit, and how does it really look for us, and what is the real impact on us? And I'd say the other side to it is it really just boils down to the values that we have. One of our values being infinite possibilities. I think it and that's something that's not just written on the wall that we, in a pretty picture. It's It's something we make a real effort every time we meet as managers. We talk about every one of our values, and we remind ourselves this is what we stand for. This is how we operate as a business. So then when you're talking about, infinite possibilities, it's right there. Like, it's not something you have to conjure up and try to recreate anew. It's already very much a part of our language and the way that we work. And the other thing I'd probably add in there is, I think there's a level of comfort that comes from having a management team that also all aligns and agrees. Um, I think that if I was on my own thinking, is it crazy that as a response to this new world order that we increase our costs by employing someone who was just 1 day a week to full time? Maybe that's a bad response. But then, when you put that forward to the team and the response is an overwhelming positive, yes, that makes perfect sense. That's a good response. It gives you that confidence as well that, that is the right call to make. So I think there is something about that collaboration and having everyone else at the table who all are invested in the company, in such a big way, and understand what we're standing for as a company, to agree and align. It just gives you that confidence that this is the right way to go.
Very powerful. What I really hear is that you are leading a company based on values, value alignment, and the training inside of being very clear on your values has also allowed you to create plans and make decisions with velocity inside of this new world order. So as simple as talking about infinite possibility. So that infinite possibility and fear can't coexist in the same space.
No, correct.
And I really hear that part of what has had you be effective in your contingency planning is being very clear about your values and also leading from values.
Yes.
Where, if we didn't have that, all we have is just the everyday default, the gossip, the fear mongering. So it's a very powerful tool that you've just shared there.
Yeah.
What would you impart to other business owners who are dealing with crisis right now? What would you say they should be thinking about?
Sure. I'll probably add one thing before even answering that, but it's
Absolutely.
even just to identify that you're in a crisis, I think is important. So one of the questions I recall you asked us at the time, Rugare, was how would you analyze where you are right now? If green is business as usual, everything's going well. Amber is, there's some concerns, but we can weather it. And red is we need to stop what we're doing, and we're in crisis mode. And we as a team all came together and say, yeah, it's actually red. I've also in recent times been talking with other business owners where things are really not going well, and yet they're not conscious of it. They keep saying it's fine, it's going to be okay, and you're like, no, you need to respond. Like, you need to recognize the seriousness of what you're going through and what you're dealing with, so that the response is appropriate. There is an appropriate response to crisis, and crisis will happen. But if you're just telling yourself it's all fine, everything's going to be okay. If the house is burning down and you're sitting there just like, it's fine, everything's fine.
I don't think so.
Yeah, things may not go so well. So I think there's also something about just identifying the fact that, hey, we are in crisis mode. It shouldn't be a disempowering thing. It should be something that empowers you and motivates you to want to respond in a way that's appropriate. And I think the other thing for us that really helped was to identify, we have this list of all our standard day-to-day tasks that as a management team we're trying to work our way through. And right now we've identified we're in crisis mode. We need to respond. Those day-to-day tasks can take a back seat. Right now, the contingency plan is what we're working on in the business, because the day-to-day stuff is less relevant to the situation that we're in. So, so I'd probably start by answering that question really by saying it's about identifying that you're in a crisis, that you need to respond, and then I think that helps in a very big way. Sorry, I'm just thinking, what was your...
Well, it's very powerful what you said there, because then you have to first deal with reality. You can't
Yes.
take any action without actually being clear about what the factual situation is. And
100%.
so what I find and what you find with many business owners is their unwillingness to deal with what is reality right now. So if you
Yes.
don't know what reality is, there's no way you can even start planning for what
Yes.
to deal with what is there.
Yep.
In essence.
Yeah, very
So
true.
I think it's very powerful what you just created there is really dealing with what is reality, which allows you to then determine what else there is to do.
Yep.
Now, many people know that as a concept. What has you be able to face that in reality? Because what we find with many business owners is that they know that they should face reality, but they think that if they do that, it'll be overwhelming. They'll get depressed, they'll get stressed, they won't be able to cope. Why do you think that you have the ability to deal with reality?
I think we've learned not to fear breakdowns and not to fear actually exposing things that are wrong within the business. We've learned that actually a breakdown or identifying things, if we're going to go and look at what are the real facts, what's our real situation, it only brings, and I think because we've done that, and we've done it now a number of times for a multitude of different things, it's taken away that fear of finding that type of thing. And actually what I found is it's actually exciting when you find those things, because what it means is now this is a new opportunity to elevate the way we operate as a business. This is an opportunity to bring rigor where we lacked rigor before. And, even I think finances are probably a very black and white way to talk about this type of thing. There was a period there where you could ask me a question around the finances within the company, and it would be a difficult thing to answer. I'd probably have to go and look at my books and figure out where everything sat to be able to respond, because I wasn't across it well enough to be able to say. But so by us identifying that as being an area of breakdown, by putting in place all the systems and processes needed to really understand and know month by month, this is where we stand, this is where all the money's going, this is what's happening within the business and our finances, then meant we had the facts readily available at hand. We could identify very quickly how long we can sustain the business, even if we don't. Our work was to stop, dead in its tracks, and So I think it's also been, not being afraid of breakdowns or of even skeletons coming out of the closet, if you like, for want of a better analogy. But that anytime those things come out, then it's a good opportunity then to improve the business and develop the way we operate. And almost, I would say, I've been learning to expect that those things come up, expect that they show up, because then by expecting it, there isn't this shock, there isn't this feeling of, oh, we failed, we're doing terribly as a business. It's just, no, well, we can't always be expected to be across every single thing at every single moment. But where we would lack responsibility would be if we avoided identifying them when they do show up, and we avoided responding to them when they show up. And I think that's the moment when you have the opportunity to either deflect and avoid it, or to face it and deal with it.
Right. The New World Order is really an opportunity for business owners to either rise up, or others are not going to actually be business owners or leaders in the business community. What advice would you provide to people who are really struggling, who have never done the kind of work you have done? So, you have spent a lot of time developing your vision, your values. You spend lots of time creating a culture in your company where they can deal with breakdowns and not fear breakdowns, and not make it right or wrong or good or bad. It's like, it's just what is. So there's an opportunity for a whole new breed of leadership right now in the world, which is very exciting. I find that exciting.
Yes.
And I see that you are going to be at the forefront in that, particularly in the civil engineering space and more, So what advice would you give people who are like, yes, I know I've stuffed up. I was not prepared for this. I didn't have the tools. I was pretending that I had things handled. But now I see clearly, but I want to give it a go again. What advice would you give?
Um, Good question. I think first and foremost would be, don't be afraid to reach out even outside of your normal circles. You know, I think having good advisors around you, legal advisors, financial advisors, high performance coaches, the more people you have who are actually professionals who know who deal with this on a day-to-day basis, where this is their bread and butter. They may be very specialized in the particular part that they can provide and advise on within your business. But I'd say, they're a great resource to be able to learn from and leverage from, and often, most business lawyers, most accountants, they've also seen people do things in ways that weren't great, and can offer a lot of wisdom and advice from the experiences that they've lived through other business people. So certainly in that respect, I'd say, I'd say the other side to it is, don't be overwhelmed by, if there is a great amount of work that you think is attached to having to, find your vision, your values, and all that type of thing. I'd say there's no better time than the present to start working on those things. Sometimes it can be as quick as, we had a contingency plan in less than an hour. These things don't have to be tasks that take or drag on for a long time. And also, I think I'd mentioned it before, it's certainly been one of the big lessons I think I've been learning this year, has been, it doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes the desire to try and get things perfect can be very limiting, because then you could be 95% complete in what you've done and produce that in an hour, and then you could spend another 5 weeks working on the final 5%. It's not worth your efforts. It's not worth your time. But certainly, if just to be able to distill your values, and even if your vision's not perfect, I think it took me a long time actually for our company vision to be clear, but that didn't mean we stopped our whole business and didn't continue to operate. It just became something we worked on and worked through until it finally just had that light bulb moment and it clicked for us. So I think that there's nothing wrong if you don't have all those things in place. But I think as long as you're conscious of what you need to work on, and again, just like we spoke about with the contingency planning, okay, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. What right now is the most important thing for us to spend our time on? I'd say right now, if you're in crisis, then spending a lot of time working on your vision statement is probably not the best use of your time. It's important to have a vision. It is absolutely fundamental and foundational that you have a vision, but it may not be the best reaction and response to the current situation that you're in. So again, it really just goes down to, you have a list of what you need. You lean on others either within your management team or within your business, or you lean on others outside of your business who have been through this type of thing before, and you bounce ideas off them. You get them to assist, and then you analyze and find out what is the most important thing to be working on right now in this time. And I think that and the other thing I'd add to that as well is, sometimes we can make, and I'm talking about myself here. Sometimes we make we make these tasks so big in our mind, it's so complicated in our mind, when some of them can be done in 5 minutes, some of them can be done in a single phone call, some of them can be done, it's literally just getting out of what I spoke about before, out of our own head, trying to manage and resolve things in our mind, and performing by actually sitting and typing up the email or making the phone call and just taking the necessary steps. And sometimes there's nothing like a bit of uncertainty and crisis to propel you into doing what needs to be done. I think it's easy when times are okay and when business is going as per usual to put off some of the areas that you feel like you need to work on, but you've got every excuse of how busy you are to avoid it. But now I think in these moments it is an opportunity also to really just get those bits really sorted, bring rigor to those areas. And I'd say the other side to it is sometimes those things that I've feared, some of the conversations I haven't wanted to have, now I actually enjoy those things. So finances was a big one for me. I always had this fear that I just wasn't going to be across my finances, and there were things that I was missing that were going to bury the company, and think the wheels were just going to fall off if everyone knew where we were at. Reality is that was all an illusion. We're actually doing fine. I've also got a manager within the business who's really stepped up to the plate and taken on all the finances. So I've done a big handover with him, and I enjoy our conversations around finance. We have these great meetings, and it's not just, I think I just had these ideas in my mind about what it would be like, where he'd become this person who's just a naysayer going, yeah, well, you could pursue that idea, but don't have the money, whereas it's actually the other way around. He's very in line with what I'm about and the kind of way I want to operate my business. So he comes to the table with ideas and says, hey, there's this extra money here that we can put towards, doing this something special for the staff, or doing something special for this community. So, it just opens up our world and what we can do, rather than it being limiting. And I think it's so. Don't be surprised if by addressing these things you actually start enjoying some of the stuff you were scared of. And sometimes it is just taking the steps, even though you're scared, or even though you're not sure, or even though you're worried, just doing it anyway.
Wonderful. That's all we have time for today. I could talk for hours, and I say that to everybody that I've been having this conversation with. There's just a depth of knowledge from every person's mind, that I'd love to just distill and for ages and ages. But this is just some of my key takeaways from what you have communicated. Number one, just deal with reality. Just be really clear about what the facts are. It's not business as usual. Get clear about what's going on. Don't put your head in the sand. Don't bury your head in the sand. I'm terrible with those kind of, what are they called? Metaphors, idioms? I'm not sure what they call them.
That was fine.
Thank you. Making it up right now. my imperfection. And then number two, I love what you said about surrounding yourself with advisors. So, I can only think one way, but other people's thinking can really create a whole experience and opportunity for me to see the situation, the same facts from a different perspective, which is very powerful. Number three, don't sit in the fear.
Yeah.
Really just do not sit in the fear. Take an action right now. And that's been something that's been aligned in all the business summit conversations. It's just don't sit in the fear. The fear is going to be there, but take an action. Yeah. And, our mind may make it harder than it thinks it is. It might take if I were to do that, that's going to take forever. But the reality can be as simple as a phone call, which may take 2 minutes, that could solve $1 million problem. So I really hear, don't sit in the problem, reach out to make that difference. And of course, spend time, thinking about your vision and your values. Don't get anything perfect, just get started.
Yes, 100%.
Very, very powerful. Thank you so much, Dave, for being part of the Business Summit and using your valuable time to educate me and the entire community for what's possible.
Thank you. It's a real privilege to be part of it. Appreciate it, Rugare.
Great. How can people get in communication with you?
Good question. So we are becoming more active on our social media channels. So So CDSE are on LinkedIn. We have a Facebook page, and you can also check out our website. There's opportunity there to contact us and be in touch.
Great. And personally for me, I just thank you for your continued partnership and the difference you make. CDSE is not just a civil engineering company, but, you make a difference in my home country, where CDSE provides scholarships for girls to go to school in Zimbabwe through the Gomo Foundation. So I appreciate the generosity and the difference that you make in the world.
Yeah. Thank you.
For everybody listening to this Business Summit, thank you for your generous listening. My team and I are there for you as you navigate through these unprecedented times. If you are interested in having a conversation with me, feel free to email me at connect@rugaregomo.com. Thank you very much.